All right. First of all, student loans. And student loans, the big one about student loans is going to be for the deductibility of interest. So interest on student loan is deductible, but the question is to how much is it deductible? All right. So the loan must be for solely for educational expenses. If it's for other stuff, it's not. It's not qualified for it. So home equity loans and revolving lines of credit do not qualify. So if you take out a loan, a home equity loan, and you buy a car and pay for school, doesn't count. They're generally for loans that are only for education. Also, they must be used for qualified educational expenses. Only to the extent that you're using them for qualified educational expenses can you write off interest for it. And we'll see kind of how that plays out. Qualified education expenses are, yeah, you read through all this stuff. Oh, an eligible education institution, that's basically any institution that'll give some type of a degree that's accredited, or some type of certificates that allow somebody to do something they couldn't before. So it's not for someone who's just going through school to go to school. There are some people who just take classes just to take classes. It's generally you're going towards some sort of a certification or degree that it's allowed. All right, things that reduce it. And these things are, if you think about it, if these are things that you're collecting, it means that you're not really paying for those parts of it. So any employer education program. So if your employer pays part of it, then it's not going to be, it's going to be reduced by that. Redemption of U.S. savings bonds to pay for higher education. Those are, they'll also reduce your qualified expenses. Funds withdrawn from a covered education account, a special account. Qualified tax-free scholarships and fellowships. So if the scholarship or fellowship is tax-free, it will also reduce it. Now, it is possible that it is not tax-free. If there's some work requirements for these, you might pick those up as income, but then you'd also be able to allow those as expenses. So if it's not a qualified scholarship, let's say that you have to do something, you intern at some place and they pay you whatever it is. It is not tax-free. You pick it up as income for whatever you're doing to get the money, but it also would not reduce your expenses. Armed forces or veterans educational assistance. So if the Army or Armed Forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, I'm not sure how many there are now. I think we have a space one, don't we? We have a space agency, Armed Space Agency. But anyway, those are, if they give assistance also, this is kind of common sense that, that whatever you're paying out, if somebody else is paying it, you can't. Okay. So let's go through some examples here. Student loan interest. Oh, wait, I think there's going to be a short class, and which is good. I got to get out that chapter 3 exam. I don't think I sent it out. I don't think I sent it out in the exam. I'm going to go over it anyways to be sure. Don't something crazy on it. Okay. Student loan interest. The maximum allowed is $2,500. So that's the most you can write off per year is $2,500, and that's the 2019 amount. Interest only allowed of student loans that was used for the portion of student loan that was used for qualified expenses. Okay, so let's take the first one here, Tom, and Tom has a student loan of $25,000. his qualified educational expenses of 28,000, and the interest rate on Tom's loan is 6%. Well, first of all, how much of the loan can he write off? All of it, right? All of it can be written off because the 25,000 obviously went for these qualified educational expenses. Even there's even more there, but all of that loan, cover those. So he can deduct 25,000 times 6%. This is my not good pen. I think someone in my family stole my good pens. Oh, wait till I get my hands on them. All right, 25,000 times 0.06. Okay, so how much interest, student loan interest can Tom deduct? 1,500, the whole amount. Okay. Let's go to example number 2. Student loan qualified. Okay, the entire amount was paid for those qualified expenses for the entire amount, even 3,000 more, but the loan is for 25,000, so the entire loan. The interest rate is now 12% though. Okay. So how much can Tom write off? The limit is 2,500. So Tom, even though he may legitimately have 3,000 of interest expense, the most he can write off is 2,500. See, not a focus. Marginally better. I have another one of these. I might try using the other one. This one I don't think it was focusing very well. Okay. So let's go to page 2. Check my spacing. I did there. Okay, Tom has student loan for 25,000. His qualified educational expenses for 28,000. The interest rate on Tom's loan is 6%. The employer pays $700 towards Tom's education. So the question becomes, well, how much of the student loan can Tom write off? Okay, well, when the employer pays towards education, it's going to reduce those educational expenses. So we have the employer payments. So there's only 21,000 left over. So this 21,000 is what Tom can, the interest on 21,000, because Tom's $25,000 loan really only paid for 21,000 of these additional expenses that the employer didn't pay. that in my head, but yeah. Oops. So the remaining 21,000 are the only amounts that are qualified that will relate to that loan, and that will mean that Tom will pay interest on the 21,000. This amount will be deductible. The other 4,000 at 6%, whatever that comes out to, is not. Reason being, it didn't go for qualified expenses. The employer picked up those expenses. Question on that? Okay. Let's see here. Tom assumed loan for 25,000. Tom has educational expenses of 15,000. Tom has an academic scholarship of 12,000. Now, normally these are not taxable. So normally scholarships are not taxable. So this will be, but they also reduce your expenses. So the qualified expenses $15,000. Scholarship. I'll let myself more room here. So 3,000 is 180. I better pull out the old calculator just to make sure. Yeah. So the scholarship would reduce that amount of qualified expenses. Now, again, if this scholarship, if this was taxable, let's say the scholarship was for some kind of a service that you would do, that you're required to do some kind of work for the scholarship. If you had to pick that up as income, then the entire 15,000 would be allowed. Because you already pick up the 12,000 as income, the 15,000 of the interest would be allowed. It would not be a reduction, simply a reduction of your expenses. All right. Question on that? Okay, health savings account. A health savings account is money that is set aside to pay for health expenses that are in addition to your the premiums, which may be picked up by your employer. So it's sort of like this. You know, the way health plans look, I'm sure you guys know this, but you know, they usually have some kind of a deductible, like whatever it is, $3,000 deductible. That's almost room there. And they also may have a copay. The copay is 20%. Okay, so you go out throughout the year and you pay out part of that deductible, and you have copays of 20%. Let's say that you have this much in these costs. Let's say you pay the full copay, and then you have 20% of the other, some of the other services. So maybe this comes out to, I'm just making this number up, 800. So if you pay out $3,800, so this is the cash payout for $3,800 for healthcare. What happens is you can set up these health saving plans. These are, you can do it for your employer sometimes, but you can also do private ones too. And this is money that you set aside saying, look, this is only going to pay for healthcare costs. So it's sort of like a separate bank account that is for healthcare. And this is not taxed to the extent that you've actually paid out this. So, you know, you've set this money aside. And again, it can either be through your, most of the time it's through an employer, but it can also just be a through, you know, your own account. And you have this cash payout. And so, so for instance, if you have this account, and maybe you put, I'm just making this number up, 2,500 into it. Well, you can use that 2,500 to pay for this. And you say, well, why would I want to do this? You want to do this because this amount will come off of your taxes. You know, this will reduce your taxes by 2,500, or I should say your taxable income by 2,500. Okay, so if you set this aside and you had this kind of expense, and you have, these are qualified health expense, you know, plan expenses, you can put money aside, and then that will, you can write off the amount of money you set aside if it's used for those. Now, there is a caution here. If you have, you know, instead of 2,500, if you put 5,000 in, well, your qualified expenses are only 3,800, so 3,800 would be for tax purposes what you'd write off. So the other $1,200 would not be reduce your income. You know, the idea is because this is not taxed and the interest on it is not taxed, you can imagine what would happen. People would just throw tons of money in there and write off the whole thing so they didn't have to pay any taxes. Well, you can't do that. It's only to the limit of your actual payouts. So it's an account, it's kind of like a savings account, kind of like a cookie jar. You throw money into it, but it can only be used for healthcare stuff. All right. So the advantage of it, again, is that it reduces your taxes. You don't have to pay taxes on that amount that you earned that went for healthcare. The only, you know, problem is that you can only write off on your taxes the amount of money you paid out. If you put extra money in there, it does not, it does not decrease your taxes, and any interest made on that money is taxable. So what is this? The difference between, what is it, $1,200? So if you made interest on that, the interest on the $1,200, the interest would be taxable. The interest on the 3,800 is not taxable. So now is a payment with the interest on any you gain on there is not taxable if it's used for whatever. This would just be, you know, in this amount it would just be like your regular, you earned interest on an account, like we already did a dozen times, right? Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, just reading the chat now. Yeah, I don't think I didn't send out the chapter 3 exam. I'm actually positive I didn't do that. I think we finished the chapter though. I'm also equally sure I finished the chapter. All right, yeah, I'll send that. I'll send that out tonight. Okay, so. There's some rules for it though. They must be a taxpayer. under the age of 65. This is not for people who are over 65. And the idea is that usually people that are over 65, they're usually not making income. Oh, that's not always the truth. Okay, so here are the rules. They are a taxpayer, they must pay taxes. They're under the age of 65, self-employed or an employee, but their employer has a high deductible tax plan. In other words, the way tax plan, or the tax plan, high deductible health plan. The way that health plans work, the higher the deductible, the lower the cost. So sometimes they'll give it's cheaper to do that, but you pay more out of the pocket. Okay, or employee at a company that has no health coverage. So they might be a company that doesn't have any health coverage, and they purchased a high deductible policy on their own. So this is what you call, you need to be eligible for this. Now, this would be outside the employers. The employer's one is money set aside for, you can do it inside the company, and it comes out on your W-2. But this is for people that are outside of that usually, although it might be through your employer too. Okay. But for instance, on this last one, that would not be through your employer. You have to go outside of it. All right, any insurance company or bank, including financial, it can be an HSA trustee or custodian, and they're the ones that would need the actual receipts and so forth of payments to the healthcare plan, payments for healthcare. Okay. Individuals under the age of 55 can make a $3,500 and the annual contribution of $7,000. So if you're an individual, 3,500 is the limit. If you are if it's for your family, so here's this. If it's for your family, and this is up to the age of under 55. When you turn 55, now, old people that are over 55, like myself, we have more problems. So there's an additional 1,000 that can be added on. So if they're 55 or older, again, the idea is not just to reward people who are 55, but because they generally have higher, more health problems. So this would be 4,500 for an individual and 8,000 for the family if they're 55 or older. And again, reason being, older people generally have more health problems, and the cost of them are usually higher too. Okay, so Mary is 46 and makes health and payments. She's making the payment of the How much of these health savings account payments can she deduct? Assuming that she has, all the other parts of it, to go with it, the qualified expenses. Well, the limit is, if she's 46, the limit is 7,000. So she's under the age of 55. The limit is 7,000, and the other 800 she will not be able to deduct, even if she has qualified payments for it. This is different because she's 56. If she's 56, you get another 1,000. So it's going to go up to 8,000. So the whole 7,800 could be written off. Okay. And the rest of the stuff's a little bit of a cleanup stuff, but it's important. And there's actually a really quirky one. I should make examples for it. I think I will for that. Okay. Moving expenses. This is a little bit of a tricky one because it used to be that everybody could deduct for moving expenses if it was work related. That is no longer the case. And that we only have moving expenses generally people in the armed services. Okay. So if they're in the armed services and they are moving, the question goes into, well, how much can they deduct? Okay, and why are they moving? It can't just be that they're moving to a different apartment in the same place and they're still in the same station that they're at. This is when someone gets moved to a different location. They get moved from, I don't know, Arkansas to California. They get a permanent change from one station to another. And now a lot of times they'll actually get reimbursed for it, but those things that aren't reimbursed, how much can they write off? So this is for a permanent change. And so it's to move from their home to their first post of active duty. So when you first sign up, when you're moving from your house, wherever it is, you live in Illinois, they say, we're sending you to Arkansas. You got to move to Arkansas that first move. Okay, so the first post, if they go from one permanent post to another permanent post, they move you from Arkansas to California, that's going to be allowed. So if it's a permanent post. And this is when they move from their last post of duty to their home here in the United States, this is when they leave the Army, and it must occur within 1 year of their ending. So when they first go in, it counts. From one permanent post to another, it counts. And when they leave the Army, they go to they have and they move within a year to their new location. That's going to be in there. Joint travel regulations, I'm not sure what's in there, to be honest with you. I'm sure there's lots of fun reading in there, but okay, government reimbursement reduces the moving expenses. So if the government, they may pick up some or all of these, and if they do, then there's not a problem. But the problem is, well, what if they don't pick up all of them? They have a limit or whatever that they have. Okay, quality moving expenses. So moving household goods. Now, this is not buying new household goods. So you buy new furniture. So you go to a new house and you buy furniture. That does not count. This is only for moving your current goods to the new location, not buying new goods. Okay, the moving service, rental of a truck or trailer, packing expenses, storage expenses, limit on that's 30 days. But those are all valid expenses as far as moving. Travel, gas, oil, reasonable lodging. You can't stay at the, some swanky hotel or something like that. And not meals. I should probably say that differently. Meals not allowed or something like that, but not meals. So you cannot take any tickets, expenses, your meal charges. And the idea is that you'd be eating meals anywhere, even if you weren't moving. You wouldn't be staying in a lodging, and you wouldn't be using all this gas and all this stuff, but you would be eating somewhere. Okay. So a member of the services household is anyone who has both the service member's former home and new home as his or her main home. Okay, so these are only for the people that are in the current home and the new one that they're going to, moving from one place to another. So it isn't, oh, I'm going to move, to be with my new wife or husband or whatever. If the wife or husband was not in the home, this doesn't count. So the moving of the spouse independence, and we're talking about here is, things like plane tickets or, train, whatever it is to move it, however to move them from one place to another. But it's only for the people that were in the old house and then moving to the new house, not for new people that are going to be in the house. So spousal independence is are only for those people that are were in the old residence. I may make up some examples for this for next class. The reason being is there's tons of people. We get military stuff all the time, doing taxes. Okay. Divorce or legal separation. And this one is a little bit odd in that the rules have changed drastically from 2018 to 2019. All right, so it's prior to 2019, so 2018 or earlier. Whoever was paying the alimony would deduct it from their taxes. Whoever was receiving the alimony would pick it up as income. So the payer, whoever writes the checks, they would deduct it from their income. Whoever's receiving the checks would add it to their income. Okay, coming down to 2019 and later, no deduction. No income. So 2018, so if you have somebody that comes in with was divorced in 2017 and they're getting alimony, these rules apply. If they came in with a divorce decree that's from 2019 or later, these are the rules. So the past, the payer would deduct it and the recipient would pick it up as income. The new rules are no deduction for the payer and no income for the recipient. Alimony recapture rules, and these are generally for 2018 or before. This is when an alimony payments are really loaded up for the first couple of years after the divorce. I think they actually, I gotta look it up. I think it's 3 years. And the problem with it is that they would say that those are actually property payments. And we'll talk about those in a second. Property, well, I'll jump down here right now. Property settlement, no taxes. So there's no income for that. No income for child support either. So the new rules are, alimony, if you receive alimony, if you receive child support, or if you receive a property settlement, there's no taxes on it. Much easier. Now, going back to this, though, the recapture rules. If they did have alimony set up that paid out a high amount of alimony in the early years. So let's say that they had something that looked like this. So in 2017, they paid alimony of 60,000. In 2018, they paid alimony of 60,000. And then from 2019 on, they paid alimony of 8,000. the IRS says is, look, those big payments were probably for some property. You know, whoever is paying it, the alimony, probably gave property. This should be included in the property payments, and they should not be able to write it off. So if this were the case, the IRS said, no, 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 those are property, payments. The alimony payer would pick that up as income. The alimony recipient would reduce their income. It would show as a deduction. And so this is basically, a lot of times this is for people that are trying to avoid paying taxes. A lot of times people that pay the alimony are people that are making decent money, so they are in a higher tax rate and so forth. So this has been ruled as for recapture of the alimony, that it really is a property settlement. Child support. If they're paying child support, that is not income. So whoever's paying it is not expense. Whoever is receiving it, it is not income. It's simply paying for your children. And if whoever's receiving it, that's going to support their children, so that's not. And property settlements. If you think about it, that's not really income. If you take the property and split it up between two people, no one's certainly any better off than they were before. So property settlements, they don't pick up any income. You also don't pick up any expenses for it. However it gets split up, that's attorneys and all that kind of stuff. But they do not pick either of those up as income. Yeah. So this one, so alimony, if it's after 2019, none of this applies. If it's before this 2018 or before, you run into these rules, and you still have to do it. Now, if they update the agreement after 2019 or beyond, if they update the divorce decree or agreement or whatever, then you're under these rules. So if it's updated or altered or changed, however you want to say it, if they do that, if they change the rules of the divorce decree or agreement, you're under the new rules where you don't deduct anything, you don't pick up any income. Okay. And a few of the minor points here are, well, actually, this is something a lot of people run into this. I never thought that I'd run into this one, but my wife is self-employed. She's a therapist. Now, they must pay a self-employment tax equal to 15.3%. And you say, well, this is terrible. How come somebody that working on their own, how come they have to pay a self-employment tax? Well, the self-employment tax really relates to this down here. And that is this is for Social Security and Medicare. And Social Security and Medicare is commonly referred to as the FICA taxes, which I used to know about federal income. I don't know what it is. And I think Social Security, so this is 1.45%, and this is 6.2%. So that's how I come up with the 7.65%. Now, there are actually two payments made. The employer makes a payment on your behalf, and then as an employee, you make the payments. And if you look at your paycheck, you'll see it's reduced for this. So on your paycheck, you will have Social Security and Medicare taken out. They probably just refer to it as FICA. Those will be taken out of your pay. In addition to that, the employer is putting in 7.65 of your income, paying that to the government on your behalf. So the total amount that is being paid in is that. Now, When it comes to someone who's self-employed, notice the difference here though. As an employer, you can expense that 7.65. If you're self-employed, if you think about it, you're the employer and the employee, right? You're both of these. If you're self-employed, you're the employer and the employee. So what they say is that you can, I didn't finish the rules here. 50% of this can be, you can reduce your tax by 50% of this. And it has to do with this, that if, you know, you would be able to write that off if you were the employer and it was some other employee, you could write it off. So 50% of the self-employment taxes is also deductible. Similar down here to self-employed healthcare premiums. And you can take that as a AGI deduction and adjusted gross income of 100% of the healthcare premiums if you know, if you're self-employed and you're paying for these insurance premiums. Just like if you were an employer, you could write off the premiums, same thing. It's not done though, it's not done actually as a business expense. It's not done as a Schedule C, it's done as a reduction of the AGI. Now, it's only applicable if you're not qualified for a subsidized healthcare plan. So my wife's employed as self-employed, she's a therapist. She used to be an English professor, but she went back to school, got her therapy, her social work license. So anyway, my wife is self-employed. However, she's on my insurance. Even if we turn down my insurance, she still cannot deduct this because she's eligible for a plan. So if she says, I don't like your insurance, I'm going to use my own, that's fine. Her insurance though is not deductible because she's eligible for a subsidized plan. If she doesn't take it, nothing that she takes on her own will be deductible. All right, well, that's it. Hey, well, last time I was going a little too long, so this time a little bit shorter. So it all evens out in the end. So here's what I'm going to do. So let's see here. I'm in a new area now, so I don't have all my stuff isn't here yet. But the big thing I miss is the printer. So I got to run upstairs and make prints. But I'm in my basement now, I'm in the bunker. Okay, so I'll send out the Chapter 3 exam. Let's say by 10 o'clock. I should have that out. And you can turn that in whenever you finish it. We're still going to work on Chapter 4, so Chapter 4 will continue next week. And we will do, you know, obviously the tax forms for that one. Okay, so Chapter 3 exam, I'll send that out tonight, and then the Chapter 4 will continue next week, and we'll do some more examples and also do the tax form. Question answers? Any questions? All right. Well, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and email me, and I will also, I think I have them all now. I think I had to download 2 of the videos from Panapto, or however you pronounce that. So those should also be, and I think those are, when I download them, I think that they're in the same format as the other ones. Hopefully they won't have to do too much to them, but I'll edit those and those will also be posted. Well, I think most of you guys have, I think you guys have everything, I'll check and make sure though. Any questions on any of this? Okay, well, I will send out the chapter 3 exams. I'm going to go over. I want to make sure there's nothing goofy with it. So I'll go over those and I'll send them out. They should be out by about 10 o'clock. Questions? Okay. Well, I will talk to you guys next week, or if you have any questions, I will talk to you earlier. All right. Oh, where's my dog? I don't know where's my doggy. Oh, here's the doggy. I put the doggy up. All right, go with doggy. One of the things I miss about being in the basement is that I don't hear the little, I got a little dog that it literally bangs its head on the door. So anyway, all right, make it dance.